This is New Year's Day on January the 1st, 1983. Daddy and I were working on his war experiences all day yesterday, and we were doing fine till we got back to record Channel 3, and I inadvertently erased part of Channel 1, which begins on this tape at 260. I'm putting this little insert in here to identify that spot.
Had black men aboard and Indians and men from the south and men from the east and
Or
north.
you were all part of the same division, weren't you?
Yeah, we weren't in a division. We were
I see.
replacement troops.
Oh, I see.
We were leaving a division, 31st Infantry in Camp Wheeler, and we were going to be assigned to a military unit in France. We were just replacement troops.
Well, now, how long did it take you to get across?
We were 13 days, and we had 13 ships in this convoy. And at that time, the Germans were very seriously damaging vessels and sinking ships at sea, and with submarines.
Yeah.
And so we zigzagged across the ocean. That was the plan, with 13 ships in
Did
this
you have
convoy. We had
any
one
escort?
battleship,
Oh,
and some escorts, and then 13 passenger vessels,
oh.
all in one group, going across the North Atlantic.
Well, now, this
We
was
didn't
in
go
the summer,
through.
wasn't it?
Well, it was beginning in warm weather. It was in June, you know,
Mm.
and we went across the greater part of our trip was, well, we were on the ocean 13 days. So that shows you that we went out of our way. We didn't go directly across. We went northward and southward and northward and southward, zigzagging to dodge submarines. And we finally landed in Liverpool, England.
No, I don't understand. You mean some of these people didn't have anywhere to sleep all the way across?
Well, let's lie down on the deck or lie
Out
down.
in the elements at
Yeah,
night?
yeah, or lie
Did
down
you
on
get
the
in
floor.
any storms or?
We had one storm where we had to anchor. We stood still. The ship didn't move except by the waves. And we had an airplane tied down on deck. And the wind and the rain tore that thing all to pieces. Wasn't anything left but the motor. Tied
Well,
down.
surely there weren't people out on deck in that weather.
No, they'd get on they'd have to stand up so they couldn't sleep with that going on.
Well, now wait a minute, Daddy. You mean in the midst of a storm, you still were so overcrowded that people were actually out on the deck?
No, not much, not on that deck that got so much water and wind. They had room stand to go down below deck.
That's
know,
what I mean.
you know they just did the best they could. We were just crammed in there, just as many men as could be put on the ship.
Yeah.
I don't know how many hundred, but it was loaded, just loaded down.
Well, did you have a mess hall or anything? Did
Oh
everybody
yeah,
just eat where they were?
well I was put in charge as usual of a group of one table.
Yeah.
I was in charge of one table, and I was supposed to see that those men cleaned up after themselves, picked up the scraps and cleaned up the table, but as soon as they ate, they'd get lost in the crowd and I couldn't find them. So I had to do a lot of the work
Yeah.
to clean up the tables and straighten up everything, because we had an inspection in about 30 minutes after we ate every day.
Did you have an adequate latrines? I mean,
Well,
heads? Were there enough toilets?
we built, I hate to say this, they built improvised wooden toilets out of just old rough lumber, extending out over the water.
Oh.
And that's what we used.
Well,
Just planks, no toilet seats, nothing like that. Just planks with an opening between them. That's the way we lived for 13 days and nights. And we finally, at the break of dawn, well, pretty early in the morning, I'd say the sun was rising. we went down through the Irish Sea, the calmest body of water I've ever seen. Wasn't a wave on it hardly, and you could see the sun coming up in the east, and it was harvest time for the wheat, and you could see this wheat waving for miles on the Irish island.
I'm getting the globe just so I can see where the Irish Sea is.
It's in between England and Ireland,
Mm-hmm.
Scotland.
You mean you had gone north of Ireland? Surely not.
We went around Ireland. We went
You
down.
went between Greenland and Ireland?
Yeah, we went north of Ireland and come south.
And came
Down
south?
came through there. We were dodging submarines, Lord. So we came down, and on our right, we were coming south, and on our right we could see the wheat wave and the sun shining on that golden grain.
I see. You went between Greenland and Iceland. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong place. Iceland. I was looking at Iceland. You mean Ireland.
Ireland and England.
So you came, that's a narrow passage in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the water had a different hue
Mm-hmm.
of color to it. It was not bright like the ocean water.
All right.
But anyhow, we landed at Liverpool, the cotton mill city of the world. It had more cotton
There's
mills.
Liverpool right there.
Yeah, they had more cotton mills there than any place on earth, I guess. It's
Mhm.
just a cotton mill city. And the sun went down below the horizon, but not very far. It didn't get dark all night. And we boys were standing in, they had a fence around our area where we were kept. We couldn't get out, a tall wire fence. And these native English people would come out there and talk to us through that fence. And we were out there talking to everybody we could, just gathered around talking to them, enjoying it. And finally they started leaving. And we couldn't figure it out till we decided it was bedtime.
All right.
It was not dark, and we hadn't been used to that.
Mm-hmm.
So we just fiddled around too late for go to bed almost. 'Cause we went in and got to bed, in about 2 hours the sun come shining in. In other words, it didn't go down below the horizon
you're
very
so far
much.
north. This is in
Yeah,
the summer. I
Yeah,
guess.
in
Well,
June.
That's about
we-
the same latitude as Quebec, Newfoundland. You know, it's far north.
Yeah,
Juneau, Alaska is about the same latitude. Ireland is about the same latitude as British Columbia.
We landed on the western side of England at Liverpool,
Uh-huh.
way north in England. And we landed there on July the 2nd. And the next morning we boarded a train and went across England diagonally down to Southampton.
Southampton.
Train loads of us. Several trains went with us.
Here's Southampton. That's south of London.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
stayed there during the night of July the 3rd. And July the 4th, the next day, we weren't supposed to do any duty. We were relieved as on a holiday. And we just went all over Southampton and looked it over and went out to a park where the English women and crippled soldiers and old men and old women and little children that couldn't go to war, they were all out there, but no able-bodied Englishman was there. We just had a good time out there. They were nice to us. We played all kinds of games all day and ate lunch out there. And then that
Now,
night,
who fed you? I mean, were you able to buy your food out there, or did
Well,
you take it with you?
they furnished a lot of food. The English people were so proud of our coming, you know, till they met us with open arms, and we got food here and there. I don't remember where we got it, but we got along very well. And that night we loaded up on several different ships, little ships, and crossed the channel that night, the night of the 4th, July the 4th, after having an all day off while we boarded this small vessel, or a lot of us boarded, you know, different vessels. We had plenty of vessels to take us over there, and we went across the English Channel, and with some hesitation, because we had been hearing about the English Channel being infested by German submarines, the mouth of it. So we got over there and we landed at Le Havre, France. It's about 25 miles, I think, from Southampton to Le Havre.
Yeah, is that near Paris?
No, it's not too near Paris. It's the northwest corner of France. We landed there, and I'll never forget this steep hill we had to climb with our packs all done up, you know, and on our backs. We had to climb that steep hill where we landed, and the French lined each side of the road, saying a lot of things that we didn't understand, but they said, "Ooh, American, American, soldat," and we learned a few words going up that hill.
Well, when you got off the ship, did you climb down, or how did you get
We
ashore?
went down a gangplank.
Oh, you were at a dock, yeah.
Yeah, went down a gangplank to get on this paved road up this hill. It was so steep with our packs, it was all we could do to climb it. And today, if I could see a soldier who climbed that hill, he would mention the hill as something to remember.
Yeah.
And we got up there, and then we boarded a train, a little French train, where they would hold 40 men, each coach, or boxcar. We went in a boxcar. We went in a train that would hold 8 horses to the boxcar, or 40 men. And we landed over there in some small town out halfway between there and Paris, in that area.
Did your
in
division
Normandy.
have a lot of horses with it?
No, we didn't have no. We just had ourselves, and we landed there, and we were put up in a nunnery that had been used for the Catholic Church.
I want to ask you something else. Did you have any kind of machinery with you? Did you have
Nothing but our packs, our clothes, and
strictly infantry, right?
Yeah, infantry. Just had the.
You didn't even have any kind of automatic weapons like machine guns or any
No,
mortars.
we had our rifles.
That's all.
We had our rifles and our gas mask and our helmets.
That's right. You were replacement troops.
Yeah,
right?
and our big heavy underwear, and shirts and pants and leggings, wrapped leggings, and heavy hobnail shoes, thick shoes.
What's a hobnail shoe?
Well, it's a shoe that has a big nail driven in through the sole all over the bottom of the shoe to keep you from slipping in the mud.
You mean it's exposed? The nail sticks out?
Yeah, the head of the nail is the hob part. Hobnail shoes. I remember on that divisional hike we went through Macon, and our feet were sounding like horses' feet hitting the pavement. And these ladies yelled out, "Oh, look at there, they wear iron shoes."
Where was this?
In Macon, Georgia, when we went on
I see.
that divisional hike that I was talking about. We went through Macon, and it took several hours to get through there. This whole division had to go through. It took 8 or 10 hours. Well, back to this place where we went in this nunnery. we just filled the nunnery up. It was a pretty good sized building, about 3 or 4 stories high, and it kept maybe 100 or 200 women in it, and we were all assigned to a room and had cots in there, and we went to bed. And we had one boy that was such a drunkard till he got drunk and vomited all over the steps, and I'll never forget his punishment. It was a bad punishment. He was punished by putting on his pack on his back with a big rock up in the top of it, and he could hardly carry the rock in the pack and all of his paraphernalia with him, and his gun and helmet and all, and he was made to march out there in the courtyard, the square courtyard in this nunnery area. And a big storm came up that night, a bad wind, and it blew a big limb off right near that boy, but it didn't hit him. And he was punished so severely it made everybody sick. Just terrible punishment. And he'd like to kill him. He'd sit out there in the bad weather all night and had to march. He couldn't even stop. That was pretty severe for what he had done. Well, we stayed there several days. We stayed in that building 3 or 4 days. While I stayed there 3 or 4 days, where they used this building just temporarily. They would take boys off of the ships coming from America and carry them over there and bivouac them over there just long enough to get them ready to go to the front.
Mm-hmm.
And after breakfast every morning, all the men in that one building would have to line up outside the building, and they'd call names. It was done by lottery. They'd call names out to stand forward, and they would take that group and send them right then to the front to replace troops in other divisions.
I want to ask you one question. I'm interested in what you're doing. I believe one time you told me that man died, the one that marched all night. Do you remember whether he did or not?
I don't recall now. I don't recall saying he died, but he suffered terribly.
Well, go ahead. You were talking about this was a bivouacking area for recruits that got sent to the front, right?
Yeah, they'd take about 2 or 3 truckloads from each building, about 15 or 20 men. They'd call us out, and they'd yell out the names and say, "You people will be sent to the front. Go get all your belongings together, and pack them up, and get ready by a certain hour." And they'd load them up. And one time we had some to come back from the front that had been up there several days, and they were telling us what happened. And it made us feel mighty bad to think our names might be called any morning. So finally, the day came that my name was called.
Well, what sort of stories did they tell?
Well, they told that some of the men that they went up there with were killed before they ever got to the first lines, before they ever got to the main lines that they were going to.
By shelling, you mean?
Shelling by airplane fire, crossfire by machine guns in airplanes, and things like that. And everybody was thinking maybe this day would come to go to the front. Well, fortunately, in my case, my group of men were assigned to go down south of there, way down to Clermont-Ferrand, France, near the Alps. Clermont-Ferrand, France. And we went down there and stayed in a building that had been used by French troops for several days.
That's a long way from where you were, isn't it?
Yeah,
How did you get down there?
we went by train, French train. They put us on a train, and took us down there.
How long did it take you
So
to get
we
down
stayed down there. We went down there in about a day and a half.
Uh-huh.
We spent one night on the road. And we got down there, and they had Algerian troops. The Algerians were under the control of France at that time, and we had a lot of Algerian troops down there, and they were sent to the front, giving room for us to occupy the same building.
Mm-hmm.
So we stayed there about a week, and during that week or 10 days we stayed there. We were sent out in different directions, 5 or 6 men at a time, to buy up horses. Somebody had gone on, rather to load up horses on the train and bring them back to that location and carry them up to the front. So we had 8 men, one of them in charge. I think we had a corporal or sergeant in charge of us. We had 8 men, 7 or 8 men, lined up one day to go to a town to meet somebody who had bought a bunch of French horses. Well, we went to the wrong town. We went to a town, this boy that had his directions couldn't read the writing, or they had misspelled a word. We went to the wrong town, and there weren't any horses or men there ready to be brought back down to Clermont-Ferrand. So we had a good day and a half or 2 days of that. We had a time, this is very interesting to me. They had never seen an American soldier in that town, and they didn't know we were American soldiers, and everybody ran.
I thought you were German.
Everybody ran, the chickens and the geese and the turkeys and the dogs and everything got stirred up, and we found the mayor's house right in the middle of the town, a little 2-story building, and his office was upstairs. And we all went up there and was telling him that we had come to meet so-and-so and get some horses that
Did
he had
anyone
ready.
speak French?
We didn't have any knowledge of French at all.
Did he speak English?
He didn't know any English. But he finally, we said, American soldier. Oh, yeah. Oh, la la.
Okay.
And the way he found out we were American soldiers was I saw the President of the United States picture up on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I pointed up there and I said, American President. And he said, ooh, la la, American soldier. He found out we were American troops. And he was very friendly with us. But we didn't get any results about where the horses were, and we decided we must be in the wrong place. So we had to walk about 15 kilometers to get there to the house. We had a dinner there that cost us 20 cents each. The man had the money to buy our dinner. We didn't have a dime because I didn't have a nickel in my pocket for the whole length of time that I stayed in France. And my payroll never did get to me. I was always on the run, and I never did see a nickel till I got ready to come home. And they gave me $12 to eat on.
Well, whatever happened to your money? Did
it,
you ever
it
get
just
it?
stayed in the Treasury of the United States.
I see.
The payroll was made up, but they couldn't get the payroll to me. I was going to so many different places. So we had a lunch there, all we could eat for 20 cents. And we stayed around an hour or two, and then we walked back to a town where there was a lieutenant officer there, an American lieutenant, and headquarters for this activity. And we went back to him, and of course he got angry because we went to the wrong town. but he couldn't help that, and we couldn't either. And we stayed all night there in that hotel, and I'll never forget the beds that we slept in. They had 2 or 3 soft mattresses, and they were thick beds, thick as I've ever seen. You'd almost have to have a stepladder to get up in one, and soft as they could be. And the women were kind and nice, waitress and bellhops and everything. So we spent the night there, and then the next morning we got up, ate breakfast.
Now this village must have never been subjected to war. You were
Well,
behind the
they
front.
hadn't seen anybody. They were way away from the front down in southern France. They hadn't seen any troops at all except some of the French troops. They knew
Yeah.
them, but there weren't any sign of any war down there.
Yeah.
No shells falling around them or scaring them or anything like that. So we walked a long way back to this town where we spent the night. And then we got on a truck that was furnished us and went on back to Clermont-Ferrand. And our trip played no part in the war because we didn't do what we were supposed to do. We went to a town called Lepuy, Lepui, and it wasn't the town we were supposed to go to. Well, we stayed there a week or so, maybe not over 7 or 8 days. Then I was assigned to a train carrying horses to the front, and the 8 horses to a boxcar, and 1 man looking after the horses. And it was a long train. We had big horses, middle-sized horses, and little horses. And we had every boxcar had 1 man and 8 horses to go into Belfort, France, up toward Germany, up near the Alps, Belfort, France. It was right in the northwest, the southwest corner of France, I think. We could see the Alps,
I
see the snow-capped Alps from where we were. And they had a catwalk along the side of the train on each side, and you could walk from one boxcar to the other one, see, on that catwalk, little plank like that. So the boy in front of me got afraid of his horses. He had a big old horse whose front feet stuck out in the middle of the aisle. See, we just had the space between the heads of the horses. There was a rope tied across the car at each end, and the horses behind that rope, and they were tied with their heads just in the door, heads, so they could eat hay.
Yeah.
We had to feed them and keep them busy. So this boy came knocking at my door one night. It was way in the night.
How long did you travel?
Well, we traveled a day and night to get up there. He came and knocked on my door, and he knew me. He said, "Johnson, please let me in. I'm afraid that horse is going to kill me. He's so big. He got the pawing,
Yeah.
Tremendous old horse." And I let him in, and he stayed with me the rest of the night. We got up to Belfort, France, and they were shelling the town. And we had forgot to bring our gas masks. We weren't told to bring them, so we were wondering if we were going to get out of there alive. But we hurried back home.
Was the town occupied or people?
Just a town occupied by people. Yeah, they had got to gassing it. Just occasionally drop a gas bomb over there. We heard that and had us all upset about getting gassed. And we soon got away from there and went back to Clermont-Ferrand. Then we stayed there another week or 10 days, and I was picked out to go to the front.
Well, this looks like this is going to be a pretty good place to stop here, Daddy, because we're just about to run out of tape on this side.
All right, you can stop it there.
If you're gonna, this was back at Clermont-Ferrand.
Clermont-Ferrand,
and that's
F-E-R-R-A-N-D.
the staging area, and you were picked to go to the front from that point. Is that?
Yeah, I was picked out to go to join. I sent from there over to a place called Pont-à-Mousson on the Moselle River, and where I could see the Germans living over there on the other side of that river. And this hill had been dug out by the French, and it was full of fleas and lice and mice and all. They didn't clean their barracks like the Americans had to. They didn't clean their sleeping quarters at all. They'd just been staying in there for months and months, and they were being relieved.
Where was this now?
This was at Pont-à-Mousson.
Pont-à-Mousson. Yeah, well, let's see how much more space we've got here. Yeah, we've got some more tape here. You say you went to Pont-à-Mousson? Is that right?
I was ordered to go along with a few other boys from Clermont-Ferrand, France, where we had been delivering horses to the front. You know, to go with another group, a different group of boys, just picked at random, to go to the front and be assigned to another division, another regiment, another company. Well, I was assigned to the 82nd Division and Company E, and some infantry. I forgot the regiment number. It was Company E, though. I was assigned to that company and turned over to them, and they had my records there. And when I got there, they told me about a boy who was rolling a wheelbarrow full of hand grenades along. And one of the hand grenades exploded in that wheelbarrow and just blew it all to pieces and killed him.
Did all the other hand grenades go off too?
Yes,
Must have been
most of them just exploded. They popped off and blew off the handles, you know.
My goodness.
He had one underneath there that got you had to pull a pin out to get it ready to go. And then you couldn't put that back in very well. It was like a cotter key.
Yeah, you had to hold the handle down.
Yeah.
Well, there's no reason to hurry. We can just move.
Well, let me go on with. We were sent to occupy there near Pont-à-Mousson, a hill, and the French had dug out the hill. It was just a comb, just alleys, lanes through the hill, and offsets for just turned